Okay, good to know. That was Nicolas Cage. He's not going to be at Kinda Funny Live 3, but you can. Go to kindafunny.com/KFL3 to get your ticket now. So Mother's Day is like this weekend. If you're listening on Patreon, it's next weekend. But if you're not, dude, it's this weekend. Luckily, this episode of the Gamescast is brought to you by Sherry's Berries. Now, if you don't know Sherry's Berries, some of our friends, namely Andy and Kevin, they know Sherry's Berries really well. You should have seen Kevin take these things down. I'd say it was impressive, but it was more scary. But you can, gift these to your mother and see what she does with them. All you got to do is go to berries.com and use the code KFGames. That's BERRIES.com and use the code KFGames. Okay? Now let me tell you a little bit about these things, right? They're strawberries dipped in chocolate. You might think, oh, I've had that before. Not like this. Sherry, I don't know what her special technique is, but she is nailing it. There's a special deal now. Starting at just $19.99, you can get huge, freshly dipped strawberries plus shipping. And right now, you can double the berries for just $10 more. And guess what, Kevin? Guess what?
What?
The deal's even sweeter because it's Mother's Day. For just $10 more, you double the berries and you get free cake truffles too. I don't know what those are, but does that excite you as much as it excites me?
It really does.
I'm sure that it does. Again, you know what? You've won me over. Now I'm just impressed. You guys did good. You did good. Everybody, go. Berries.com, BERRIES.com. Use the code KFGames. You just got to click on that mic, and you can make that thing happen. This amazing deal won't last long, and Mother's Day is coming soon. Don't disappoint her this year like you do every other year. What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 119 of the Kinda Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by one of the coolest dudes in video games, Greg Miller.
Hey!
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 And for the first time ever, joining us, Will Smith.
Hi.
Hello, Will Smith.
Did you guys know which Will Smith I was?
Let's just get it out of the way.
Did you
How
know?
hard is your life, being Will Smith, but not being that Will Smith?
Look, I'm a middle-aged white guy. My life is pretty easy most of the
But
time.
you got the Twitter account, so you won the battle?
Look, I got the Twitter, all of the accounts. I have all of the accounts.
You were just
except
at
for
Will
Snapchat,
Smith.
because who needs Snapchat?
Yeah.
We're too old for that.
I'm way too old for Snapchat.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
But it's basically when I go to a hotel and check in, I can tell how
God.
old I am, how old the person behind the counter is by the joke that they make. So if they hit me with a getting jiggy with it, that means they were in probably middle school in 1999,
Yeah.
and that means that now they're 17 years
Scientology
plus
jokes
1990. Yeah,
now.
so yeah, exactly. It's a lot of Scientology jokes, a lot of Jaden. People on Twitter get really pissed off at Jaden Smith.
Oh, yeah.
like unbelievably
And you
pissed.
will never hear the end of it?
And it's always just like, get your son, man.
Like they're just
Get
talking
your
about how
son.
shitty of a dad you are, and you're just like,
Man, I don't have a son. Leave me alone.
your daughter?
Just daughter.
So how old is she now?
She's 4.
4. Oh my God.
4. She's like a small human being.
I used a picture of you to promote this.
Yeah.
And she was a lot smaller than that.
She
was just in your arm.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were in the hand. I was like, damn, this is a small kid.
They teach you to do that. They teach you, like, when you go to the parenting classes, you'll find this out soon.
One day.
when you're
No,
when your
not
time
soon, everybody.
comes.
There's not embargoed information. One day.
One day when the time is right. But no, you go to the class and they're like, okay, you can do the football hold, you can do the bread basket, you can do the and the head cup with the body strewn out along the arm is one of the recommended ways to do a one-hand baby carry.
The one-hand baby carry.
Nice.
It's crazy to think that at one point all of us fit in someone's arm.
Yeah.
And now she's like that tall. She runs around. She's riding a 2-wheel bicycle now.
Wow, what a big girl.
Yeah, she's a big girl.
Now,
What's
here's
up
my
with those bicycles without the...
Oh, the gliders?
Is that what they're called?
So there's two schools. Man, this is a deep topic. But there's two schools of thought. There's that you teach them how to balance with the glider, and then they pedal later. Or you teach them how to pedal with the training wheels, and they learn to balance later.
Oh.
So
Because I've been seeing, there's like a rise in popularity.
Oh, yeah.
of these things. Every time we go out, there's these kids just cruising around. They're like half scooter, half bike. So yeah, you're on the seat, but you're just moving your little feet around.
and like you skip your feet off the ground. Yeah. Like we went with the traditional. We went with training wheels.
Okay.
So I don't know what's
Keep it
up
in
with the
class.
gliders.
There's now big boy, like our age, adult male or adult female, little not power wheels. What's not tricycles, but the ones that you pedal on?
the big wheel.
Big wheel, thank
Yeah.
you. There's adult big wheels that come with a beverage holder that is meant for alcohol.
I saw
LaCroix.
an electric adult
Really?
big wheel the other day that the guy said was like 60 miles an hour. Which sounds like it would be terrifying.
That sounds
That's
too
a
much.
little too much.
But I was at this weekend. I was out at Kate O'Brien's down in Soma, hanging out, and I was on their little outdoor patio. And this guy and 2 girls rolled up on those things, and the bartender came out and was shooting the shit with them, and then they rode off. And it was like the most traditional San Francisco conversation of like, oh yeah, he's the CEO of some tech startup, and he just buys those for $100 off Amazon and rides them around the city, and then people steal them, but he has them, and da da da.
Fucking startup people.
Fucking
They're the
kids with
worst.
their goddamn money and
Yeah.
venture capital.
Holy crap.
Now my next question though.
Yes, sir.
Back to the Will Smith topic before
Yeah.
we get too far gone
It's
from
my
talk
favorite
about
thing.
video games. I'm sure you love this.
minutes in.
Never gets tired.
Was there
of
a
putting
weird
Gamescast.
moment for you? Because you're friends with Gary Whitta, friend of the show here,
Yeah.
the most storied Game Over Greggy show guest. And then
Really?
he's been here the most. We can't get rid of him.
I mean, he is like fungus.
The legend is he might still be here this day.
How many, has he done 3 full episodes?
Yeah.
3
full episodes
Yeah.
of the show.
Where does he? He doesn't have time to hang out with me anymore. But he comes over
It's
here.
been over the course
It
of
is just you are
couple
just around the
years.
corner.
Well, this gives
too.
him an excuse to buy the weird British food and bring it in and make us eat it.
Oh, is that what
I
his-
mean,
is that what his thing is?
Yeah, that's his
Okay.
thing. Yeah, he gave us his spotted dick once, and then it just hung out forever, and we never ate it.
Has he
went back.
made you eat cockles?
I don't think we've had cockles.
Oh, you
with
should make him
no?
bring cockles next time.
Next time, okay.
Yeah, they're delicious.
Sounds like Gary's getting an invite soon. But was it
yes.
when he did After Earth and stuff?
So-
and like, Jesus, God.
So there were 2 moments that were really weird. One is that like Will Smith got famous while I was in high school, and I grew up in a small town in the South.
Okay.
So everybody that I was in high school with, I had known for like 10 years at that point. Nobody made that connection when The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was on TV, and the guy's name was Will Smith. And I never heard a joke until I went to college.
Gotcha.
And my freshman year in college, I was like, wait, this is going to be a problem. And then it, like his career kind of spiked, and then it kind of waned. And by the end of the 90s, like Wild Wild West completely bombed. And I was like, thank God I'm finally out of this nightmare hellscape. And then Independence Day hit, and I was like, shit. Okay, so here we are.
You weren't
and
getting away from
he
that.
just keeps making, the Millennium came out.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Gary wrote After Earth, which was one of Will's more recent kind of big budget action movies. And he kept just texting me pictures of him hanging out at Will Smith's place in L.A.
Looks like I got a new Will. I'm sorry.
like, yeah.
Oi, Governor, looks like I got a new Will Smith, don't it?
Oi! Yeah, exactly.
Spot on.
So yeah, that was a weird moment. The weirdest was at Comic-Con that year when they were promoting After Earth. They did a panel like 2 years before the movie came out, and I was there for tested stuff.
Yeah.
And like Gary was like, "Hey, you want to come to my panel? Come to the lobby of the Omni, and you can walk over with us, and we'll take you in the green room." Will Smith wasn't there. It was
Okay.
just all
Oh,
of
I was
his-
gonna say, here we go.
No, it was like his overbooked production team, all
Sure.
that. They were all there. So I met his brother-in-law, who's one of the producers on the film, introduced myself, and the dude just started laughing and fell on the ground. He was laughing, literally rolled on the ground laughing when I
That's a bit
introduced
much.
myself
That
as Will
seems a little
Smith.
too much. That
I was like,
seems
that
too
I maybe I didn't need this right now.
Thanks for bringing
But
me, Gary.
yeah.
I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
This is lovely.
But
That's
the panel
great.
was nice. So
Okay.
you know.
If people don't know you,
Yeah.
I guess we've done a shitty job, but how would they
Yeah.
know you? You tested.com, that was your old gig.
Yeah, I did. I started testing in 2010 with Norm Chan. We worked with the Mythbusters the last few years, and we got to go do a bunch. Like I stood on top of a nuclear reactor while it was running, and looked down between my legs at the blue glow of Chernikov radiation.
Oh, okay.
Which is a haunting color. You can only see it at a nuclear
This is
reactor.
before or after your daughter.
2 weeks before she was conceived. So I'm hoping for superpowers. There's still a
man,
chance.
wow.
Oh, ho, ho.
Like you know,
That's fun.
We'll
Well,
see.
What are you doing now?
So now, about a year and a half ago, I started a company called Foo, and that's FOO VR, and we're building virtual reality sound stages, basically. So you put on a Vive, you get into our software, we'll record your performance, sound, movements, the whole thing, and then we animate a character based on your movements in that spot. So you can create 3D rendered interactive VR stuff like the Foo Show. With just off-the-shelf hardware, you could do it. We could do it in this room right here. We could make a cartoon version of this show if you wanted.
Well, this sounds like an excellent segue into our first topic. But first, I'm going to do the whole rigmarole. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Each and every week, we get together, talk about video games, all the things we love about them. You can get it early on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, or you can get it late at youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. Either way, we appreciate you. And a little bit of, housekeeping stuff. Greg's not going to be here next week on the show.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah. If you watch this on YouTube, I won't be here the week it's posting on YouTube because I'll be in LA for E3 Judges Week.
Oh.
This is a huge honor. I've never gone to Judges Week as a judge.
Wow.
I've gone to Judges Week as I'm an IGN underling.
Like a chud?
Yeah, because they do the whole thing. If you're unfamiliar with Judges Week, is that Jeff Keighley assembles the super friends of video game publications and invites them there to see games early, that then they'll see other games at the show, and then at the end of E3, they vote and they say, hey, these were the best games of E3 as like one unified body outside of just your IGNs, your GameSpots, whoever's. And so when I was at IGN, I'd go down there and do Judges Week, but it meant that Steve or Hillary or whoever was going to every event, and then there'd be some events where they're like, all right, the judges portion is over.
Judges only.
Yeah, judges only, or
judges only.
We'll throw you a bone and lift the velvet rope so you can come in and play whatever dragon game somebody's crapping out, and you play it, and then you write non-stop about it, and you feel like, oh man, if only I was a judge. But that's the ivory tower I'll never make it to. And this year, Kind of Funny has been, I guess they can't say anymore. We don't matter. Kind of Funny is put its stamp on the world, its place on the map. Fuck everybody. We're one of the companies they want voting on these things.
Yeah, congratulations, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a huge honor. It's a huge honor for us in this industry. So thank you so much. It's because of your support. I will now not work and probably just drink with Brandon Jones and Victor Lucas.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Greg's gonna go down there. He's gonna see all the games, and then the following week, or whenever the embargo
won't be able to talk about
which
it.
will probably be
Exactly.
E3. We'll talk about it, but at the very least, we'll do a topic about your experience.
Do you want to know what I'm planning on doing? I'm bringing the old school notebook, and I'm going to take copious notes on these games so that when these embargoes do lift, we can either do topics or breakout segments or whatever, reactions as they call them here.
You know, if you got one of those sticks that you put your phone on, you could hold it out in front of you after you do the thing, and you could talk to the camera.
That,
and then you'd have video too, instead of having to write like some sort of.
But then it's just me up in my hotel room doing that, and I got people walking by behind me. You would do it?
No, I said I'm into it.
Oh, you're into the stick?
I think
you're into the stick reactions.
I'm into anything. Yeah.
You are the one who's always bitching we got to use the wall more or whatever.
We do need to use the wall more. You're right. All right, cool. Well, anyway, congrats, Greg.
Thank you. No, congrats to you and everybody. Congrats to the best friends for making this happen.
And also, congrats to Tom Bach, our Patreon producer for the month. Thank you very much for being an awesome dude.
Let me just say, these segues today.
Oh, yeah.
And you were bitching. You're like, I think I'm getting sick. Look at you just destroying it.
I'm just right now. Okay, segue. Let's take a little time travel trip back a second ago when we had a really good segue. Today's topic is VR. Let's talk about it.
The virtual reality.
The future of it, but also the state of it in 2017.
I like that a lot.
So where we're at now, we got all the big guys are out. Oculus officially out.
Sure.
PlayStation VR been out for a while now.
Yep.
Half a year.
Yeah.
Vive is there too, right?
Yeah.
Killing it, doing its own thing. What does this mean?
Well, you can go to the store and buy them.
It's true.
Can you? Because this is the problem. Every time we talk about PlayStation VR, it comes up as, oh, people in the chat, if we're doing it on Twitch, I can't find it in my store.
Is it still hard to find?
Yeah, but then there's other people who are just, I'm at Target, and they take a photo, and there's a wall of PlayStation VR. And so I don't know what the line is to buy anymore, because that was the thing when Andy House did that interview with Business Insider, or whoever it was, Business Times, saying like, you know, we screwed up. We underestimated demand. We didn't get them out fast enough. So now I'm not sure where demand is anymore, if that was a moment in time where everybody wanted it. Because, you know, with us being our audience mainly PlayStation focused, or at least me being a PlayStation voice, I don't know why I get, painted that picture.
I don't know what it could possibly be.
Our audience, they talked about how hard it was to find. They bought it at launch, and then for a while I thought people didn't care about it, because like when we were doing PS I Love You Still, I'd be like, nobody's writing in questions about it, but I don't hear people bitching about it. And it was what
that's kind of what you want on a new hardware launch.
And that's what I said for once. I thought the tone had been set of, hey, PlayStation VR is coming. It's Gen 1, and you're making an investment on unproven tech, and you're not going to get a AAA game every month, and blah, blah. And rather than not listen to that, buy it and be pissed off, it seemed like the people who are hardcore enough to buy it and pre-order it knew what they were getting, bought it, and then just chilled out. But even now, I am starting to see the crop of, well, what am I playing on this? Where is it going?
Well, I mean, so this is a lot. This is a big. You asked like a bunch of questions.
If you could wrap it up in 4 minutes,
I'll give you. Okay, I got 4 minutes. I'm working on it. We're just now reaching the. If you think about the way I think about VR, real VR has hands, right? Or at least a tracked controller. It's like the PlayStation, the way PSVR tracks the DualShock. Or even the track DualShock. Like the Move is good. The Move is interesting because it's like really good on X and Y, and it's not so great in and out from the camera. The track DualShock is actually my kind of preferred PlayStation controller for most of the games that I've played. You know, the even like Rez and stuff like that. The hands are the real key. And Valve introduced the Vive at E3 2015, which was just now 2 years ago. I mean, sorry, GDC 2015, which is just now 2 years ago. So, like, if we're talking about a game that somebody who didn't have early access to the hardware before announced, meaning like the Job Sim folks and the Northways making Fantastic Contraption and stuff like that, then we're just now at a normal AAA game 2-year development cycle. So we're just like, and you're seeing that stuff starting to come out. Like Resident Evil 5 hit. What is it? Super Hot's coming to Vive later this month. It seems like they started teasing that.
PlayStation's finally talking about Farpoint again. Farpoint looks cool.
Farpoint's the shooter that they showed at E3 a couple. Yeah, that game's that was one of the first things I played that had like movement like a traditional game that I didn't immediately feel like I was going to throw up. So I think the games are a little bit slow. The kind of overall market, like I have a startup, so I talk to investors and stuff like that.
Startup.
I know.
Where's your weird big wheel?
.com leather jacket wearing assholes. No, we're like, people are looking at the game's adoption on the desktop side especially, but also the PSVR, and they're thinking that maybe this isn't going to be a new technology that's driven by games. They're starting to hedge and make bets about enterprise applications and stuff like that. So, investments slowed down on consumer-focused stuff, which is not great for video game people, but at the same time, the hardware is finally getting to a point where there's enough units out there that it's kind of a legitimate platform that's worth spending time on. Yeah. Between Oculus, if you're building a Steam VR game that works on Oculus Touch and Vive and the upcoming LG headset and all the other stuff that's coming down the pipe, then we're looking at 1 million plus headsets just now, which isn't a lot compared to, say, the Switch, and nothing compared to PS4, Xbox, or Steam as a whole. So. It's a new market. We're still pre-iPhone days. Like remember the Palm Treo and the old Blackberries and all. Like that's what we're talking. That's what we're using right now, and we're working up to get to the point that we have that first moment where like you download the app that tells you what song is playing on the radio or in the department store or whatever, and we're not there yet.
That's a great point. We just went and did the Star Trek bridge game.
How is that? I haven't gotten to play it yet.
It's fun. It's complicated as all hell. I really was like, oh, we're going to jump in there and we're going to have fun with it. And it was like, all right, let's sit down. We're going to walk you through 15 slides of PowerPoint. And then you have to do the tutorial. And then you have to play them. And like, okay, cool. And so then we jump into the mission and it's still, because it's very much like you're a team based, of what's going on, right? And I was running engines or whatever to shoot them off. But I totally forgot that I needed to tell the other guy that, to move power around. So like when it was like, all right, Greg, take us over there. I'm like, all right. And like, and I'm like, I don't know why we're not moving fast.
Yeah. Honestly, I thought that they overcomplicated it.
Yeah.
Like they didn't need to show. I think the slides confused the thing because I thought once we were in, when I was doing all the tutorials, I'm like, oh my God, this seems overwhelming.
Yeah.
But then once we started doing it, I'm like, we're fucking up because we're being assholes. Like, if we were really paying attention, because it's not like each person has that much in front of them.
It was just that thing of like, it's this really smart concept of to make you talk to each other, to make you look back at the other guy and be like, this is what I need. And it's to what you're talking about too, of like, for me, it was putting it on, and after having primarily done PlayStation stuff, putting it on, and we're looking at each other, and then we started you're using your fingers, and we're doing like guns and like this and crap like that, and then love and sex stuff moves and whatever. But it was like, this is cool, and it was that cool idea of like being in that space together, except for when I punched Tim by accident.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of those in
real life,
like the tutorial stuff. You really punched him. That happens.
Well, it was that thing of boom, I'm on the bridge. These are my controls, and Tim's over there, and I was like, but do this, and he was like as close as you are. And I went poof. I'm like, oh God, I'm so sorry.
Not the face. It's one of those things that, like, the tutorial thing that you mentioned is a real key thing. Like when we make 2D video games that live on a TV screen, like they can steal UI prompts from stuff that's come 30 years before.
Sure.
When you're building a game like Bridge Commander and you need to get a lot of information out, there's not a good framework. Like we don't know what the user interface and user experience should be like for those experiences in a 3D world. Because like in the real world, which is 3D and is how we interact with everybody every day, if you need to convey a bunch of information, you send them an email or they look at a piece of paper or something like that. Reading isn't great in the goggles with the current resolution of the displays. So we're having to build all these interesting UI elements that are like kind of mimic real world objects. Like for example, when we were building a fast forward interface for the Foo Show is this virtual reality talk show I do. And we needed a way to fast forward and scrub through a timeline. And like we know how to do that in video. You just click the thing at the bottom of the video window and it fast forwards. But that was a bad experience when you're trying to aim like a laser pointer at it because your hand's wobbly and it's not good. And did a bunch of work to smooth it out and make it work better, but it still wasn't a great experience.
Yeah.
We ended up just making a physical object that pops up in the world when you hit a button, and you reach out and grab a ball, and you move the ball with your hand across the line.
Like you're scrubbing through a
like
YouTube
you're scrubbing
video.
through a YouTube video. And at the same time, all the characters are Benny Hilling all around the world. And like people get that immediately. It makes tons of sense, and it's much better than like trying to recreate 2D UI.
That's super smart, because that was the thing with Arkham VR.
Yeah.
Where Batman does and he replays the crime scene, but it was that putting your hand in, like turning like this.
That's actually pretty good. I think.
It was good, but it just took a second of I'm doing. It wasn't that natural immediately, and then like precision wise, it wasn't. There.
But it's kind of like every time you need to do some new user interaction that nobody's figured out before, or that you think you could do better, it's like trying to build a car without knowing how to make a wheel. Right, you're literally starting from ground zero and everything. So a lot of stuff is taking a lot more time, which is why we're always late with all of our Kickstarter rewards and stuff like that. Excuses.
Are you still confident? Like you jumped in, VR is this hotbed. Is it still there for you?
I mean, we're in a really lucky spot because if we were selling consumer software, I'd be a little bit more worried. The fact that we also have this whole, like, we accidentally built a thing that's really great for making 2D animation inexpensively. Puts us in a pretty okay situation for the indeterminate future.
So what do you see it being in terms of a future for gaming? Like, is it going to wane? Or do you think you're going to see PlayStation double down and do more with it? Or are they going to go quiet for a while? And
so there's enough headsets in the market that people are going to keep making games, right?
Yeah.
But I think we'll see, instead of big AAA, like I think Resident Evil 5 is kind of 7. Sorry, I knew it was odd, but I couldn't remember which one. Is kind of 5 was the racist one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why aren't they all?
5 was that.
Okay,
one.
but some are more than others. Anyway,
well, sure.
5 was the most.
Yeah. I think that we're going to see. I think we're going to see people making more smaller projects, right? I think, stuff like Superhot is a great example. I don't know if you guys have played that.
Superhot's awesome.
But yeah, like something that's a relatively short, tight, really, really well designed, really, really interesting thing. But we're not going to see a 200-hour Persona game come out in VR. I kind of don't want that.
Persona. 90 hours in this headset would be awesome.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, we'll get there. The market's going to get there. The hardware works. It's good.
Yeah.
People are into it. Enough people have bought headsets. Like but it's just, it takes a while.
Do you think? I mean, you'll see the smaller games usually speak to smaller developers, like the Superhot team and stuff. Do you think they're going to? Are they going to make these games because someone's coming to them and contracting them to do it, or are they going to do it because that's what speaks to them? Because there's that balance of, well, there are only a few million units in existence, when I could go to PlayStation and then make something that goes to Xbox and PC and everything.
Well, it remains to be seen what's going to happen with Xbox and Scorpio and VR. They have a partnership with Oculus. Looking at the specs on that hardware, it seems like it should be capable of doing at least PSVR quality, if not much better resolution, even maybe with a desktop headset.
Okay.
I think that we're in an interesting situation right now because all of the AAA kind of stuff that we've seen come out so far, the vast majority of it has been funded or at least subsidized by either Sony or Oculus. I think when that money stops happening, if that money stops happening before the market is big enough to support those kinds of games, that's a kind of real dangerous inflection point, right? Because if the money's not there to make the AAA games, but the audience has come to expect the AAA games, then we're in a not great situation.
Gotcha. So a question from user Rory Binks is, how long do you think it'll take before we see the second iteration of the current VR headsets?
Hardware. So there's already rumors about like revisions to the existing hardware that make it lighter and stuff like that. In terms of substantial like capability changes, so things like higher resolution screens or eye tracking inside the headset, or like there's even research projects that have come out of SIGGRAPH where they put electrodes around the edges of the mask.
Oh my God!
And it tracks the face. Your
cheeks.
Muscles.
It tracks the muscles contracting around the edges of your eyes and your cheeks, so it can detect smiles and stuff like that. It'll be
he smiled. Shoot him in the face.
Well, I mean, think about playing something like Werewolf though, when you can see people's facial reactions versus right now when you kind of can't, and it's not as much fun when you have no tells if they're lying.
Smart.
Anyway, I think we're gonna get to that point sooner than we think, but I don't think this year. I think next year at the earliest, and maybe even the year after that, depending on hardware vendors. The Steam VR side's a little bit more wobbly though, because it's more of an open platform. So Oculus is building Oculus hardware. Anybody can build Steam VR hardware, and like if HTC decides they want to spin a new version of the Vive before Valve thinks it's ready, they can go ahead and do it. I think. So,
do you see some of these people falling away and leaving the marketplace?
the hardware people or the software people?
Hardware mainly, because I mean, it's always there's Oculus, there's PlayStation, there's Vive.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't know what the attach rate's like on the PlayStation side.
Yeah.
My guess is that people who bought a PSVR, a lot of them also went out and bought PS4 Pros last year.
Yeah.
And they're the true believers, the hardcore faithful. Right. I think. I mean, I don't know. I think if people keep buying games, then people keep making hardware. Mm-hmm. If people stop buying games on one platform or another, then the hardware will start to fall off.
Gotcha. And
like on the Steam VR side, we've seen that's closer to an analog to Android, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen a lot of vendors come in and out of that space over the years. More come in than go out, but some people have definitely pulled out of or gone out of business. Failed.
Do you see a PSVR 2 happening, Greg?
I mean, I want to see what happens this year. This year's the big question mark for me, because it was leading up to it. I thought their messaging was so great, where it was shoe out in front. And I know for our longtime listeners are so sick of this. Shoe out in front. This is to us what PlayStation 1 was to us. We are launching something that in 20 years will look different. We are committed to it. We know what's happening. They put it out. There's Batman, there's Star Wars, there's all these like franchises for you to grab onto and understand. And then there was a shortage. Andy admits it. You're like, okay, there's going to be more. There's going to be games. There's going to be announcements. There's not, but E3's here. But E3 last year was AAA, done. It wasn't, hey, let's talk about it. Are they going to do that? Is this where you come out and you're like, hey, everybody, PlayStation VR had a great year. You're seeing them in stores again. We're so excited. Here's how many units sold. And here are 3 big things from the first parties. Here's what we're doing that are big things. Or is it nothing? Is it a sizzle reel of things that look like Job Simulator? And then you're like, now I feel like this is Vita, and are we on that Vita track where it's just like, go do your thing? More
important than a new next-gen headset, because the headset's shockingly capable for the price point, right? It's a really, really nice piece of hardware.
Feels great, too. I love the form factor.
It's comfortable. It's my most favorite to wear. Yeah. Like, I love that the little gaskets just press up and you're not getting a bunch of stuff mashed onto your face. The thing that platform has problems with is the hand controllers. Like the touch, like I said, the touch were great. Like what, 5-6 years ago 8 years ago when they came out. But the fact that you can't go in and out, that you lose that Z axis, makes it really hard for people who want to port games from Vive and Oculus over to that platform. And then the other thing is that it's much more expensive to develop for a closed platform like the PlayStation than it is to just gin something up in Unity and jam it out on Steam. Yeah. So like, if they want to engage those small developers and get a lot of titles out on that platform, then they either have to loosen up the restrictions, but they also have to produce some better hand controllers. And E3 is a great time to announce that.
And that's where I get scared, is because it feels like what I've been talking about with PlayStation is that, PlayStation 3 made so many mistakes and then started coming back, and then to launch PlayStation 4, announced that at the February event, they said all the right things. We're about games, we're about gamers, and that's why they're successful. Mm-hmm. But then it felt like this was coming back to the old PlayStation of like, all right, now we can come back and just rely on our games. We don't have to put personalities out. We're not going to have Shu out there. We're not going to have a fun video with Adam. It's going to be very like old PlayStation was. In old PlayStation, how do you put during a conference that information out? I'd much rather see a blog post tomorrow that's like, hey, everybody, we are doing a pub fund again, and we are incubating 4 indie developers who have signed 3 game deals to make VR stuff and make cool.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And that we're still committed to this in this way. And the fact that they've been so quiet on that front is alarming to me of like, well, what does this mean? And PlayStation's a big ship, and I feel like were we witnessing them change that course while they were talking of like, we've been working on this forever and it's finally here and we're excited about it, but that's the old guard, and the new guard is like, well, why would we ever do this? We're selling consoles hand over fist.
Well, I mean, the larger question about VR as a whole, though, like the technology is transformative. I still believe that, right? Yeah. When you talk about a lot of game developers talk about verbs in terms of what you can map to controllers and verbs that are accessible to players when they're playing a game. So if you're playing Call of Duty, you can jump by pressing the A button. You can shoot by pulling the trigger. You can aim down the sights by pulling the other trigger. Yeah. You can move. But there's not any when you have the ability to reach out and pick things up with your hands, all of a sudden a lot more verbs are accessible to you. And the variation inside those verbs is also much more available. So if you're talking about knifing somebody, in Call of Duty, if your cursor's in the right place and you're inside the distance for the check when you press the stab button, you're going to stab the guy no matter what. But if you have hands, you can reach out, you can swipe down, you can jab, you can swipe across, you can swipe up from the bottom, you can block, you can throw your sword across the room and stab the guy with the flying sword.
Probably don't want to do that with VR.
I mean, don't let go of the controller, but
That's
otherwise,
why you got the wrist straps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Yeah.
It's safe. It's
Yeah.
perfectly like don't let your kid in the room when you're playing VR. That's a pro tip. But, yeah, exactly. Daddy, why'd you hit me? That hasn't happened for me. Just
Then they tell all the
child
kids at
protective
school.
services. Yeah.
They're there. They're knocking
Next
on the
thing
door.
You know, it's all bad. But yeah, so like having the ability to interact with a software in a 3D sense, the same way that we interact with a 3D world, means things that like sculpting 3D objects are much easier in VR than they ever have been in on a 2D desktop using that crappy 4-pane, the CAD interface. So I mean, the technology's good. It's here. It's going to happen.
My whole thing is I'm just worried about a chilling effect, so we don't get to those games, so we don't get to those experiences.
It's a real concern
because that's the thing. Where Star Trek Bridge Crew is a game that if it came to consoles and PC or whatever, I would look at it and be like, no. But to put it on, because I'm not a Star Trek fan, I'm not interested in that kind of teamwork. But you put it on and you're like, oh, this is such an added dimension. Like what you were just talking about. Imagine if they did Gary's mod that way, and we were running around and one of us, not running around physically, but like moving around and it's our own hands and stuff. That's really cool because it'd be like, are you reaching for the gun right now? No, I was reaching out to get the. No, you're the murderer. No, I'm not. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's like Rec Room. Have you played Rec Room? So Rec Room is a Oculus and Vive thing. And it's basically a bunch of mini games. It's not in a mini game collection sense, but it's all multiplayer. So you can go play ping pong, you play dodgeball, you play paintball. Okay. They recently rolled out a couple of quests, and they're basically you go with 4 players. You have guns, you have crossbows, you have bows and arrows, you have swords and shields, and you just kind of dungeon crawl through this maze with 4 friends. And it's a super, super simple game, but it is so much more fun than any kind of TV-based video game would be, just because you're literally like, hey, you need to come over and revive me. High five me to revive me, and they come over and high five you. You're literally ducking down behind cover. You know, all of that stuff makes it a much more deep game than it would be if you were just trying to map those same controls to a gamepad or a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, when VR is done right, it's so fantastic, and I'm just worried about people getting the like. Oh, there's not enough units shipped, so I'm not going to make a game that way, and I'm not going to do that.
But I mean, the secret is if you look at stuff like what was the Ubisoft game about Grow Up? Grow Home.
Oh, Grow Home, yeah.
Like you look at these even AAA games are starting to spin out little side projects. So rather than lose those people that want to go out and start their own studios, they're spinning them out into their own little side projects. And I think we'll see a lot of really interesting stuff out of there. And frankly, you need to be able to iterate quickly with the software right now because like a new game comes out. I see something like Breath of the Wild is a good example. If you're making an open world game in 2017 that's shipping after Breath of the Wild and you can't climb up stuff, you got to be really busting your ass right now to get the ability to climb stuff in. Yeah. And that happens with VR literally every week.
See, and that's what you just said is the same pitch I've been making for Switch, where it's like, Ubisoft isn't going to port the next Assassin's Creed to Switch, but why not take some UbiArts people and let them make something to it? And that's, again, where we get into the business model of like, well, there's a few million VR headsets out, but we know Switch has now sold 2 million, more than 2 million in the first month, was it, or whatever? So it's like, well, let's get out there.
If you can draft off of the art that's accessible to a Ubisoft studio and take up some of the slack time when there's downtime between projects and all that, then why wouldn't you make some VR games?
Yeah, I think the thing with PSVR in particular is it was too little too late in terms of the game releases. And I think that now we're at a point where I don't think we're going to get much PSVR stuff at E3. And I think that we might have seen all the big AAA titles that it has. And we'll get some more experiences. Like last year we got trailers for there was Batman, there was Final Fantasy 15, there was Star Wars, whatever.
And I think for
Final Fantasy I still think's not out.
Which one?
Oh, Final Fantasy 15
VR.
I don't remember.
I don't think it's out yet, but I might be wrong. Let me know in the comments.
Yeah.
I think in the same vein, I wouldn't be surprised that like next thing is Star Battlefront 2, and they come out and they're like, and guess what? There is a VR component that's bigger, a little bit better.
And I think that's cool. I think that's the right way to handle the bigger license things, where it is just like smaller experiences, because trying to shoehorn the Battlefront game into VR is just not going to work.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying about the Sony needs new peripherals, I think if they were to do that, they had to have done it when it launched the thing. Because at this point, when they don't have the games, you can't expect people to buy more things to get things to work correctly, especially when that will segment the audience in the way that the Wii U did, where certain controllers work for certain things and it was a disaster.
Well, that was what's so interesting about the launch of PlayStation VR is that they really didn't make a big deal about the Move again. We all thought it would be a big, moves back in stores, And it really was like, there's a bundle if you want it, or you just order them off Amazon.
So they didn't make you buy moves. Like, you don't have to buy the moves with the bundle even today. So I think that there's still an opportunity to come out and say, hey, look, you dug out your moves from the closet. They were cheap if you bought them on Amazon, whatever. Let's make these good, and let's roll out with a first party Sony thing that's just baller. That uses these new hand controllers. And the other thing is, like, the hand controllers are going to change. The Oculus controllers are really good. The Vive controllers are kind of ambiguous. They showed some stuff at Steam Dev Days last year, so we're going to see some changes there. And we'll see some incremental upgrades to that in the same way that you kind of upgrade your phone case or whatever. Sure. Probably they'll cost more than $35.
Probably. Or I'm dropping $80 on Pro controllers left and right, whatever.
Well, I got one final question about VR. It's important. This comes from More Saiyan on Twitter. Do you think Armored Core would make a good VR experience?
Man, I was a Chromehounds guy. I don't know anything about an Armored Core.
There you go. Little history lesson on
I thought we had it answered. We finally answered it. He's going to do an Armored Core.
This is VR specific. This was for Will.
Look, yes, a giant mech tank game, VR, it's right in the wheelhouse.
There you go, Chris.
Yeah, there you go. You're welcome.
Let's make it happen.
That's what Konami should have done.
I really want Chromehounds. I'd love to see a From Chromehounds 2 full VR with like all the weird communication stuff that they had in that game. So good.
That would have been the way to go with Metal Gear. If you're going to keep making Metal Gear and piss everybody off, make some kind of your Metal Gear simulator fighting game or whatever. Don't make this stupid zombie first-person shooting.
Zone of the Enders VR.
No, Zone sucks. Zone sucks. Zone of the Enders sucks. We only ever bought Zone of the Enders to get our Metal Gear Solid 2
and then you fell in
demo
love with
disc.
it because it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, ordered the demo disc off eBay.
PlayStation
when full anime was great. Fantastic. Hopefully you enjoyed that episode of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. If you did, click there to subscribe to Kind of Funny Games. Click there to subscribe to Kind of Funny for non-game content. Click here to support us on Patreon. And this part's not sponsored, Cherries Berries. Get out there.